Great job.
Got so serious suddenly. Well, friends, I am Nizam Misaghi, and they told me that once I'm up here, I can remove my mask. And so I'm going to remove my mask. It's like, it almost feels like a part of Baha'i history where a certain figure removed something, but not quite with the same impact. But we've been through a couple of years of very significant restrictions, and so going beyond the mask, I think, is wonderful. Friends, I want to formally open the program at 7:35, which actually it is 7:35. So without further ado, let's first welcome everybody to the Baha'i Faith Community Center of Scottsdale. Thank you for being here. Give yourself a round of applause. Today we're celebrating a momentous occasion. It is the occasion of the birth of Baha'u'llah, the Prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. And it is my honor to be the host for the evening. And I am also very happy that this is the most well-attended event since the onset of the pandemic at the Baha'i Center. This is a sign of more to come as the numbers of the virus go down, the numbers of people who have been vaccinated goes up, and hopefully we will avoid another surge. The Baha'i Center has its rules still that try to not get overly zealous with your hugging and touching each other. Keep your masks on while you're in the building, except for me, who apparently is accepted because I'm more than 6 feet from you. And if it is any consolation, I have received 3 vaccines so far. And so I think that I am a little less likely than average to harbor this wonderful or not so wonderful virus. Before we begin, let's do a couple of housekeeping items. Please look at your cell phones. I'm going to do the same and turn it to silent or vibrate. Additionally, if anybody wants to use the restrooms in the main hall are the easiest to access. The ones on this side require opening the doors. They make extra noise, so please use the ones behind you if you have to use the restrooms. Also, if you have any children who end up becoming a little restless, I understand, and if you would be so courteous to remove them, especially when the Baha'i writings are being said, so that it does not disturb the meeting, I would be very appreciative. If you find me particularly disturbing the meeting, please ask me to leave as well. I'll do the same. One more thing that I wanted to say is today I remember my mentor and wonderful Dr. Donald Streets. This is the first event that I don't see his radiant face. I feel that he is with us. He was a longtime member of the Scottsdale Baha'i community. He had a doctorate in education and had served over many continents and over many decades the community at large and the Baha'i faith community. And I find it only fitting that on a celebration night like this, we think of him, that he always faithfully was sitting somewhere in the middle row and always had very insightful commentary. So he's very much missed tonight, but on such wonderful occasions, it's wonderful to think of him and the legacy that he left behind as a longtime member of our community. I also wanted to thank the Scottsdale Assembly for making the Baha'i Center available for this momentous occasion. Also wanted to send my gratitude to the Holy Days Committee for organizing and putting this beautiful program together. They have from time to time asked me to MC events, and they know that I have declined on multiple occasions as I had been busy and going through very significant difficulties through my life. But they persisted, and I thank them for persisting. And I figured that if I refuse this one, next one I'm going to have to do is going to be an ascension program, and it would be too sad. So I'm just glad that they offered me the opportunity to be here tonight. So thank you to them. And also, since you haven't seen me for so long, I have now grown old enough to need reading glasses. So if you see me putting glasses on, you know that a lot of time has elapsed since we last met. So I appreciate you bearing with me with taking this on, off, and off the whole time as I enter middle agehood. So thank you. Okay, friends, we're going to have an opening prayer by Mr. Shidan Mozoon. And after the opening prayer, I'll come up and say a few words about the person of Baha'u'llah, who he was, what his background was, and why it is so important to celebrate him, both for the Baha'i community as well as the community at large. So without further ado, Shidan John, please come on up for the opening prayer.
I implore thee, O my God and my Master, by thy word through which they who have believed in thy unity have soared up into the atmosphere of knowledge, and they who are devoted to thee have ascended into the heaven of thy oneness, to inspire thy loved ones with that which will assure their hearts in thy cause. Endue them with such steadfastness that nothing whatsoever will hinder them from turning towards thee. Thou art verily the bountiful, the munificent, the forgiving, the compassionate Baha'u'llah.
So friends, to understand the historical context and perspective of where and when Baha'u'llah was born, we need to look back at Persia, first in the late 18th century. In the late 18th century, there was an overthrow of one dynasty and a new dynasty comes to power. The dynasty that was overthrown was known as the Afsharid dynasty, and the Qajar dynasty takes hold. At that time, Agha Muhammad Khan is coronated as king, and he takes over the reins of power, and very significant tumult follows. Following his time as king, there is Fath Ali Shah. He is the second in the sequence of Qajar kings, and it is during his time that a Persian nobleman who was not from the Qajar dynasty, but he was a nobleman who was assigned to be both a vizier, which is a minister, and also a governor of two provinces within Iran, is asked to serve the court of the king. His name was Mirza Abbas of Nur, also known as Mirza Abbas Nuri, and he was known as Mirza Bazorg. Mirza Bazorg would be the father of Baha'u'llah, the man whose birthday we're celebrating tonight. Mirza Bazorg had, as a nobleman, and during those times, had a very significant family. He had 4 wives, he had 18 children. Baha'u'llah was the 8th among the 18 children, and among the siblings of 18, there were some half siblings and so on. It is important because Mirza Bazorg had significant influence in the court of the king. He was very well liked. He was known for being very generous and also a very capable governor as well as vizier. And it is to this type of family that Baha'u'llah is born. Why is this important? Baha'u'llah is the champion of unity in the world. But Baha'u'llah is born at a time when Iran, at the time was known as Persia, was very divided between the nobles and the ignobles, between the lay people and the people who were considered royalty or noblemen. Baha'u'llah had access to power and to fame. But it is within this kind of context that Baha'u'llah decides at the age of 27 to follow the Bab. And the Bab is a forerunner, is a religious figure who had created significant commotion within Qajar Iran. At this time, it is the 19th century, the 1800s. And significantly, at the age of 27, Baha'u'llah becomes a follower of the Bab, although the two never meet in person. And significant events occur where the king at that time, Nasir ad-Din Shah, is trying to suffocate the Baha'i movement that is posing not only a religious threat to the religious establishment, but also posing significant political upheavals for the country of Persia. And the Bab is executed. Subsequent to that, there is a question of successorship, and shortly after that, Baha'u'llah emerges as the leader of the Baha'i movement, and it would be 9 or 19 years later, depending on how you count, that Baha'u'llah declares that the object of the writings of the Bab about him whom God shall make manifest is indeed him. Baha'u'llah's name was not Baha'u'llah from the time of birth. He was born Mirza Hussein Ali Nuri, and the title Baha'u'llah is later the title that he takes to describe his mission as the person who satisfies the prophecies foretold in not only the books and writings of the Bab, but the writings of many religions prior to him. Let's have a video that we're going to watch. The video is put together by Roya Bennett. And then subsequent to that, we're going to have Anis Noor and Bahia Khanum, siblings, come up and do a reading for us. Then I'll come back and give you a little bit more background on the life of Baha'u'llah.
Oh, friend, in the garden of my heart, plant not but the rose of love, and from the nightingale of affection, you say I'm thy home. From the nightingale of affection, you say I'm thy home. Treasure the companionship of the round chairs, and as you will fellowship with the ungodly, in the garden of my heart, plant not but the rose of love, and from the nightingale of affection, who said I'm thy home. And from the nightingale of affection, loose and thy home. Treasure the companionship of the righteous, and as you all fellowship with the ungodly, hold fast in the garden of thy heart, plant not but the rose of love. close of love. Hey.
Friends, we're going to sorry, we have a little situation. We're going to have Adi Noor and Dahiya Khanum come on up forward here. They will be saying a prayer together. They'll share it together. It is a reading from the Baha'i writings. As a matter of reverence to the Baha'i writings, as much as they're going to do a wonderful job, I ask that you withhold your applause and just smile at them as they're finished.
This is the King of days, the day that hath seen the coming of the best beloved. He who through all eternity hath been acclaimed the desire of the world. The world of being shineth in this day, with resplendency of this divine revelation. All created things extol its saving grace and sing its praises. The universe is wrapped in an ecstasy of joy and gladness. The scripture past dispensation celebrate the great jubilee that must needs great this most great day of God. Well is it with him that hath lived to see this day, and hath recognized its station, where mankind to give heed in benefiting manner to no more than one words of such a praise, it would be so filled with delay as to be overpowered and lost in wonder. Entranced, it would then shine forth resplendent above the horizon of true understanding. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you to both of you. You did a wonderful job. All right, my reading glasses are on. This is wonderful. I'm going to say a couple of more things about the life of Baha'u'llah, and then we're going to be treated with this beautiful live music that is going to be performed by a 10-year-old whom I will introduce to you in just a moment. But so I told you that story that there was significant commotion within Persia, especially at the time of execution of the Bab, the forerunner to Baha'u'llah. At that time, as Baha'u'llah ends up emerging as the leader of Babi movement and significant followers of the Bab follow him, the leadership within Iran wants nothing to do with Baha'u'llah. They want him out of Iran, but at the same time, they don't want to execute him because the execution of the Bab created significant problems. So they figure they need to send him into exile so that he is far away from Iran. At that time, the neighboring empire to Persia was the Ottoman Empire, and there was some relationships as far as prisoner swap, if you will. And so the Iranian authorities contact the Ottomans and say, well, we have this prisoner who is a bit of a troublemaker in our country. We're going to send him your way. They accept, and Baha'u'llah ends up in Baghdad at that time. And during his visit in Baghdad, where he makes a public declaration as to who he is, that he is indeed him whom God shall make manifest. And Baha'u'llah, the title, of course, meaning the glory of God in Arabic, is the title by which most of the followers at that time start recognizing him as. So what's interesting, though, is that when we follow the course of Baha'u'llah's travels, and there are multiple maps to this effect where they show him going from one city to another and so on, you see that and you feel that, well, perhaps he was doing some sightseeing. And you have to realize that this is very much the farthest thing from the truth. Baha'u'llah was a prisoner Although he was the kind of prisoner who was very well liked by the local authorities because he was known as the father of the poor, he was known as the person who was very generous with his time and his resources, and he would take care of the homeless. And so everywhere he went, he drew a lot of attention to himself as a very magnanimous, very positive figure. And so it's not like Baha'u'llah called a travel agent and sent him a couple of text messages and says, where do I go next that would be nice to visit? It's not like this. Baha'u'llah himself would not know where he was going next and when he was going there. And so when he was in Baghdad, he did not know how long he would be in Baghdad and for um, uh, and how free he would be during those times. He was given certain freedoms because he had such good behavior and they didn't think that he was a prisoner that posed any threats to anyone within the Ottoman Empire. And Baghdad was a part of the Ottoman Empire at that time. But he didn't himself know. The locals really loved him, that they didn't want him to move. But as the Iranian authorities realized, and I should say the Persian authorities realized, that he was gathering a lot of followers in Baghdad, and Baghdad was too close for comfort to Iran, they started pushing the Ottoman authorities to try to move Baha'u'llah further and further from his country of origin, from Persia. And so a firman is like an edict that would come from the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, would go to the local authorities, the governor of Baghdad, telling him that you need to move this prisoner. The governor would ignore multiple firmans because he did not want Baha'u'llah to leave the country or the city because he was such a positive influence. Until the pressure would mount and then he would have to oblige, but he would feel so bad telling Baha'u'llah the story himself, so he would send one of his emissaries and they would meet in the Grand Mosque in Baghdad where the Farman was read to him that he must be moved from there. When he was told that he must be moved, he still didn't know where he's going next. Imagine that you are a prisoner and you're traveling and nobody knows where you're going to be taken next. And so it was in Baghdad where he declared who he was, so that because it was very sad for his followers to see him leave, but they were excited because he made this public declaration and made a very nice farewell gathering. It's kind of the equivalent of today's goodbye party, but it was so wonderfully done that people forgot the fact that he is actually leaving the city because now they knew who he was as the prophet founder of a new dispensation. And so they were very excited about this. So the events that happened in Baghdad are tantamount to the festival of Rezvan. We can talk about that more. From there, Baha'u'llah goes to Constantinople, which is today's modern days Istanbul. From there, he is banished further to Edirne, which is a little bit further south. And from there, he is banished to Akko, or Akka, as the Baha'is know it. It is a city, it's in current modern day Israel. At that time, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. And he spent his last years there, and his resting place is also there, which is a place in which direction the Baha'is do their prayers. But during all of the time where Baha'u'llah was going places, he was known as the champion of unity. It was known that he taught that world peace would be established. I feel that there's a little interference with the speaker. Do you hear that? I thought I turned it off, I'm sorry. So he was also known as the person who spoke about how in the future a world governance would bring international peace and how the world would be unified and the various differences between people as far as gender, as far as social class, as far as race, all of these would be blurred and humanity would recognize their unity as one. And this is not only possible, but it is inevitable. Let's go ahead and hear another reading from the Baha'i writings. But before we hear that, let me introduce to you our wonderful young pianist and musician tonight, Shervin Rahmani Nasab, will be doing a beautiful piece on the piano for us. He will actually do two pieces. He is 10 years old, and when he is not doing his gaming or writing code, he likes to play the piano. He has a piano teacher who is in Los Angeles, and so they do this through FaceTime. And he's learned in the past 4 years to master the piano in such a beautiful way. And he will play two pieces for us. One of them is the Persian Happy Birthday song that was composed by Anushiravan Rohani. And it is only fitting because we're celebrating the birthday of Baha'u'llah tonight. And subsequent to that, he will play a little bit more serious piece that is in the minor scale, or Esfahan. It is known as Saghi Nameh. So without further ado, Shervin John, please come on around, and we will please welcome Shervin to the stage. That was wonderfully done. The first piece, Savi Nome, is typically associated with poetry that various poets, including Hafez and Nizami, have written. Nizami, I have a particular affinity to Nizami because he shares a part of my name, or I share a part of his name perhaps. But this poetry is usually sang along to the meter of what you heard. And it reminded me of my late grandmother, Aziz Khanum, who always sang this. And I could imagine that perhaps over half a century ago, when the Baha'is of Iran were able to hold large gatherings in Hadireh, my grandmother would, with her very alto voice, would sing this, and the Baha'is would listen and participate in such celebrations. My father is here today, and we think of her, and it's a wonderful, wonderful reminding of that beautiful time. So, friends, what I wanted to say as this story was unfolding was that little did the authorities of the time know that as they moved Baha'u'llah from place to place, they continued to plant the seed of a new revelation in every corner and every town where Baha'u'llah moved. Because every place where he went like a magnet, he drew new followers and he drew more significant acclaim as far as his reach. And so this unwittingly ended up helping the Baha'i faith in its very early stages of development. And let me introduce Dr. Brian McCrary, who will be reading some writings from Baha'u'llah's pen. This will be helpful for you to understand and appreciate Baha'u'llah's prose. And after that, I will come back and tell you the rest of the program. So without further ado, Dr. McCrary, thank you.
This is rather long, so I have to be able to see it. He is the most holy, the most exalted, the most great. The birthday festival is come, and he who is the beauty of God, the all-powerful, the all-compelling, the all-loving, hath ascended his throne. Well it is with one who in this day hath attained his presence, and towards whom the gaze of God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting, hath been directed. Say we have celebrated this festival in the most great prison, at a time when the kings of the earth have arisen against us. Yet the ascendancy of the oppressor can never frustrate us, nor can the hosts of the world dismay us. Unto this doth the All-Merciful bear witness in this most august station. Say, should the quintessence of assurance be dismayed before the clamor of the peoples of the world? Nay, by his beauty which sheddeth its radiance upon all that hath been and all that shall be. This verily is the majesty of the Lord that hath encompassed the entire creation. And this is his transcendent power that hath pervaded all them that see and all that is seen. Take fast hold of the cord of his sovereign might, and make mention of your Lord, the unconstrained, at this dawntide, whose light hath laid bare every hidden secret. Thus hath the tongue of the Ancient of Days spoken on this day, wherein the choice wine hath been unsealed. Take heed lest the vain imaginings of them that have disbelieved in God perturb you, or that idle fancies deter you from this outstretched path. O people of Baha, soar upon the wings of detachment into the atmosphere of the love of your Lord. the All-Merciful. Arise then to render him victorious as bidden in the preserved tablet. Beware lest ye contend with any of my servants. Bestow upon them the sweet savors of God and his holy utterances, for through their potency all men will be enabled to turn unto him. They that remain heedless of God in this day are in truth lost in the drunkenness of their desires and perceive it not. Well it is with the one who with lowliness and humility hath set his face towards the dayspring of the verses of his Lord. It behooveth you to arise and acquaint the people with that which hath been sent down in the book of their Lord, the Almighty, the Unconstrained. Say, fear ye God, and pay no heed to the vain imaginings of them that walk in the ways of doubt and iniquity. Turn ye with radiant hearts towards the throne of your Lord, the possessor of all names. He verily shall aid you through the power of truth. No God is there but him, the Almighty, the most bountiful. Would ye hasten towards a mere pond, whilst the most great ocean is stretched out before your eyes? Turn ye wholly unto it, and follow not in the footsteps of every faithless deceiver. Thus doth the bird of eternity warble upon the branches of our divine lote tree. By God, a single one of its melodies sufficeth to enrapture the concourse on high, and beyond them the dwellers of the cities of names, and beyond them those who circle round this throne at morn and eventide. Thus have the showers of utterance rained down from the heaven of the will of your Lord, the All-Merciful. Draw nigh unto them, O people, and renounce those who idly dispute the verses that God hath revealed, and who have disbelieved in their Lord when he came invested with proof and testimony.
Friends, we're going to have a video with children telling stories that are relevant to the event tonight. But before, I wanted to send my greetings and the greetings of the Scottsdale Baha'i community to the people who are watching us live online on the YouTube channel Baha'i 919. This is the local Baha'i channel on YouTube. If you are not a member of it and you have not subscribed to it, it does broadcast most of our programs. And if in the future you cannot attend any of the events in person, this is an alternate way of following through and being on this program. I think we have over 30 people currently who are watching this program live with us. My greetings on behalf of all of us in the community are to you. I think the camera is there, and so thank you for watching us. And we miss you here. We hope for events where we can all see each other in person and embrace each other. So friends, let's watch this video, and I will come back and say a couple more things, and then we'll have another reading after that.
One day, one of the followers of Baha'u'llah was remembering how, when he was a kid at the age of 4 or 5, him and his family would go to the mansion of Fachi each Friday to see Baha'u'llah and his family. One day, after lunch, when all the grown-ups were sleeping, he left the room and went upstairs where they stored all the food. Right away, his eye spotted the bag of sugar. He went towards it and took a handful and put it in his mouth. Then, before leaving, he took 2 more handfuls for after. When he was walking out with the sugar in his hands, he suddenly froze when he saw Baha'u'llah walking towards him. Baha'u'llah stopped right in front of him, then looked at his hands and smiled. He led him towards the middle of the hall, where there was a large table. He picked up a tray filled with candy. He offered a piece to the little boy. He accepted the piece of candy. Baha'u'llah said in a sweet, loving way, "It seems you like sweets." Then he said, "Eat well, goodbye, and may God protect you." Years later, when that little boy grew up, he told his fellow believers that back then no one ever appreciated his childish acts. But, he said, that love he felt on that day in his heart for the Blessed Beauty was a love that never left him.
right, friends. I wanted to share a couple of quotes with you, and I'm entitling that Baha'u'llah Through the Lens of Others. You know that the Baha'i faith has gained a lot of significant attention in media and over the history. It's a somewhat short history of over 170 years. Most recently, of course, for those who follow Instagram, Britney Spears posted a quote from the Baha'i writings, but I'm not mentioning Britney Spears specifically here because I think that will belittle the evening. But I wanted to say that even beyond that, world leaders had taken note that Baha'u'llah is a very significant figure for their time. Also, authors as well as people who had significant influence, they all realized Baha'u'llah's station and they spoke about it. So, all of you have heard the history behind the distinguished leader of the Indian independence movement from the British rule, Mahatma Gandhi. He wrote that the Baha'i faith is a solace to humankind. We also know that through his meeting with Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, Khalil Gibran, the Lebanese American author and author of the book The Prophets, also was very much influenced by the Baha'i faith. The Russian writer, who many regard as one of the greatest authors of all time, and his works include War and Peace and Anna Karenina, Leo Tolstoy wrote, "We spend our lives trying to unlock the mystery of the universe, but there was a Turkish prisoner, Baha'u'llah, in Akka, Palestine, who had the key. Baha'u'llah's teachings now present us with the highest and purest form of religious teaching, very profound. I know of no other so profound." Now realize that because Baha'u'llah had become a prisoner of the Ottomans at that time, he was known as a Turkish prisoner, even though his country of origin was Persian. American author and political advocate for women's suffrage and labor rights, Helen Keller, wrote, she was, as you know, she's very well known for being the first deaf and blind person to earn a bachelor's degree. She wrote, "The philosophy of Baha'u'llah deserves the best thought we can give it. What nobler theme than the good of the world and the happiness of the nations can occupy our lives. The message of universal peace will surely prevail." The list goes on, but Al Gore, the 45th Vice President of the United States, had very positive words about the Baha'i faith as far as his study of the Baha'i faith, as well as Tony Blair had words to say, and Baha'u'llah called the entire world to love, to collective action, to unity, and that call, the Baha'is believe, has inaugurated a new age of spirituality, harmony, and human maturation. So we're very grateful not only to think of Baha'u'llah and his teachings, but also for the gift that Baha'u'llah has given to the world. Let's have a reading here by Mia McCrary. The reading is also from the writings of Baha'u'llah, and accompanying it, I will play the prelude to Mahur, the major scale in Persian music.
He is the most holy, the most great. This is the month wherein was born he who beareth the most great name, whose appearance has caused the limbs of humankind to quake, the dust of whose footsteps the concourse on high and the dwellers of the cities of names have sought for a blessing. Whereupon thy rendered praise unto God and cried out in joy of exaltation, by God, this is the month through which all other month has been illumined, the month wherein He who is the hidden secret and the well-guarded treasure has been made manifest and has called aloud amidst all mankind. All dominion belongs to this newborn child, through whom the face of creation has been wreathed in smiles. And trees have swayed, and the oceans have surged, and the mountains have taken flight, and the paradise has lifted his voice, and the rock has cried out, and all things have exclaimed, O concourse of creation, hasten ye towards the dwelling place of the countenance of your Lord, the merciful, the compassionate. This is the month wherein paradise itself was decked forth with the splendors of the countenance of his Lord, the all-merciful, and the heavenly nightingale warbled his melody upon the divine lute tree, and the hearts of the favored ones have filled with rapture. But alas, the people, for the most part, are heedless. Blessed be the one who has recognized him who is apprehended with was promised in the books of God, the Almighty, the All-Praised. And woe betide him that has turned aside from the one whom the concourse on high have fixed his gaze, him who has confounded every wayward misbeliever. When once thou hast received this tablet, intone it in the sweetest of melodies, and say, Praise be to thee, O my most merciful Lord, for remembering me in this tablet, whereby the fragrance of the garment of thy knowledge was diffused, the ocean of thy grace were made to surge. I bear witness that thou art potent to do thou pleasest. No God is there but thee, the Almighty, the All-Knowing, the All-Wise, Baha'u'llah.
Friends, we're nearing the end of this program. There is going to be a video that we will watch. It is entitled Titles of Baha'u'llah. And after that, we will have the closing prayer by Shaheen Badi. He will be chanting that prayer. And I won't come back to the stage until after the closing prayer to say a couple of closing remarks.
The Prince of Peace, supreme heaven, the most great light, Baha'u'llah. The blessed beauty, the glorious beauty, the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah. Holy name, beauteous name, the most great name, Baha'u'llah, the King of glory, the King of kings, the most great ocean, Baha'u'llah. The Prince of Peace, supreme heaven, the most great light, Baha'u'llah, the blessed beauty, the glorious beauty, the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah. Holy name, beauteous name, the most great name, Baha'u'llah, the King of glory, the King of kings, the most great Prince of Peace, supreme heaven, the great light, Baha'u'llah, the blessed beauty, the glorious beauty, the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah. Holy name, beauteous name, the most great name, Baha'u'llah, the King of glory, the King of kings, the most great ocean, Baha'u'llah. The Prince of Peace, supreme heaven, the most great light, Baha'u'llah, the blessed beauty, the glorious beauty, the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah, 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 Baha'u'llah.
Ilahi, Ilahi, سراج امرت را به دهن حکمت برافروختی، از اریاه مختلف حفظش نما، سراج است و زجاج است و اسباب آسمان و زمین در قبضه قدرت تو، امرا را عدل عنایت فرمان و علما را انصاف. تویی آن مقتدری که به حرکت قلم امر مبرمت را نصرت فرمودی و اولیا را راه نمودی. تویی مالک قدرت و ملیک اقتدار، لا اله الا انت العزیز المختار.
Friends, this concludes our program of celebration of the birth birth of Baha'u'llah. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for illuminating this Baha'i Center after so long with the pandemic and all the events that occurred. And so I am very happy to have been your host for tonight. There is some refreshment in the main area. Nobody ever does this, but I'm going to say now you can look at your phones and turn them back to on or out of the vibrate. So please go ahead and do that. Keep your distance, keep your masks on. If you're eating something, of course, you can briefly remove your masks and try to follow the protocol until we gain some semblance of normalcy here at the Baha'i Faith Community Center. Again, my gratitude is due to the Scottsdale Baha'i Assembly as well as the Baha'i Holidays Committee who put this wonderful program together for you. Thank you very much for being here. Please go ahead and enjoy some refreshments.
Where were you? Not good. You were sitting here this whole time?